This video is for parents of students who are taking courses at Vista Ridge High School offered through Colorado Digital Learning Solutions. Those courses will be offered in the Buzz Learning Management System. What I'm showing you on my screen is a login page for Buzz. Your students should get a link to this page, which you can see in the URL up here, but they should get an email, as probably you will too, with a link to the page, and they should receive a username and password in order to log in. And there's a video available to them to give them some beginning steps for navigating a Buzz course. But this is for parents because you can actually request to be added to the course as an observer. So you can actually you can get on and directly see what your student is completing, kind of check in to see if they're staying on top of things, which isn't a bad idea. So if you would like that, you might reach out to your student's teacher, let them know you're interested, and as soon as teachers learn how to generate those roles and logins, they can respond and give you that access. But I just want to open up and show you a little bit of what your students will see when they get into a Buzz course. There's a couple of levels to get to here, but this is basically what a course looks like. It's just a series of folders. Most often your students won't see all these folders. They'll see they'll usually see, to get started, they should see something like this. Usually instructors will have some sort of welcome, introducing themselves, maybe some videos in there, and they might ask the students to respond in kind to a video, just starting to get to know you activity. But the content exists in these modules. They'll be called modules. And if you open up the modules, the students will have their lessons there. Now teachers will assign lessons through a calendar, or they may assign them through direct email notices, but students will get a message regarding what they should work on, and it's not recommended usually that they work ahead. I would definitely, if they want to do that, get the teacher's permission. That is a teacher's call, but it's best if they just stay on pace and stay with the class, especially when they're first learning a system and then when they're new to online learning as well. But in each of these folders, you'll find a few different things. A pre-test, which a lot of times the teachers don't give because it doesn't always contain the most valuable information. And then you'll see lessons, like this 1.01 is an example of a lesson. When a student opens up 1.01, they'll go into a lesson that looks something like this usually. It's a tutorial. Scroll back to the beginning of it. And this is how they get the major content. So the lecture portion of classes where teachers deliver slides or lecture or workout problems from the board, that type of information is delivered through these tutorials. And every course in Buzz will have them. And the students just start to click through. It can be a little bit boring and dry. It's just kind of the way it is in the online world. But there are some nice features. Hopefully they read the slides and see what's coming up. They just help them organize their thoughts. And then the slides are usually, you can see there are 38 slides in this tutorial, so it's a pretty long one. But they're usually 2-3 paragraphs long. They don't take a long time to read through, and it's not always just reading. But usually when there's reading on a slide, there's a feature here where they can select to have the slide read to them.
Introduction. Nothing excites Jason.
So if they're just don't want to read it, they can have it read to them. If they struggle with reading a little bit, that's a nice feature. If your student is a language learner, that's a really nice feature. That'll kind of help them get through it a little quicker. And then you just continue to progress through slides. Sometimes it's just reading. Eventually they'll get to a slide that requires them to answer a question like this one, where we're actually going to work out. This is in a physics tutorial, so they actually have to work out a problem and answer the question. The nice thing about this is when they answer the question, they'll get immediate feedback. And you can see I've answered incorrectly. So then that prompts the student to go back, rework it, try again, get a different answer, and now I've gotten the correct answer. So nice immediate feedback, which is something they would probably also get in the classroom too. But it's even more direct and more immediate in this type of a tool. So it's a real nice feature. And I encourage students that if they get to this point and they just don't get it, then now is the time to send an email to a teacher and say, I'm here within the tutorial, I don't get this problem, can you give me a little more help? And hopefully the teacher will be able to respond quickly and give them some feedback. or a little extra help. And then you just continue to progress through, and you can see we come to another slide where they have to answer a question. I got lucky and guessed right on that one first. But if I guessed incorrectly, it would give me the same kind of feedback before. You're wrong, with a little explanation, and see if they can correct their own thinking. So a tutorial they have to go through. Whenever they're done with the tutorial, it'll take them into either a practice activity, which like in math classes or science classes would be just some more problems to work, and then to a mastery test. Most courses will go just straight from the tutorial into the mastery test. And the mastery test is really a practice tool. It's not really a test. It just takes the students through a series of problems so that they can practice the content they've just learned. They could be multiple choice narrative questions like who's the inventor of physics or something like that. And then they'll be mixed also with problem solving in math and science classes, obviously. There'll be a lot of that. But when this one particularly consists of 10 questions. Sometimes they're shorter, sometimes a little longer. When they finish the mastery test, it'll let them know how they did. And this is what I encourage students, if you don't do as well as you would like to, because this score will be reported to the teacher and it's going to go into the grade book somehow. But they can retake the mastery test and better their grade. If they want to better their grade, though, here's a caveat. They have to go back to the beginning of the tutorial, and it won't let them enter the middle like it does me. When they go back out, they'll have to go back out to here, come back into the folder, and it'll take them back into the tutorial. They'll have to go through the tutorial again. Now, they could just click through it quickly if they think they know the misconceptions and can overcome it. They could just click through quickly and then take another shot at the mastery test. But if they really didn't understand, then they probably want to read through it again, even though it's going to take some time, and try to clear up those misconceptions, and then take the mastery test again. And you can do this, they could do this as many times as they want to. Frankly, I think the system will let them go back in through 10 times if they wanted to go that much, which is an advantage of an online course, because they can get information repeated and try to clear up misconception. Not as easy to do in a real life classroom. So this is one advantage to online learning. But I would say after 2 attempts, if they're still having a lot of struggle on this mastery test, then that is definitely time to contact a teacher and say, I need a little more help. The teacher can actually go into these tests and see exactly what they missed, the questions that they're not getting correct, and then they can give them some more instruction on that. So a lot of information comes back to the teacher too. So that's really how to use the course. Some courses also have, like this icon is a quiz. Some courses will have students take quizzes as well, which really is just more practice on the same content that they just finished in the mastery test. It'll take them straight to going through one question at a time, just like the mastery test did. But not every course has the quizzes, so it's kind of a hit or miss thing. They may have them, may not. The teacher will let you know, will let the students know what to expect and what to do. A couple of other things to point out in this tool, and these should be available to you too as a parent observer. But what I tell the students is spend a lot of time checking your calendar, check it every day, because if they open up the calendar, it's going to show day by day the activities that are due for them. In my calendar, it shows the activities that I've assigned day by day. So once the teacher assigns it, then it'll show up into the student's calendar as an assignment that they have to complete. So there's a great organizational tool. I think they can add their own things to their calendar as well with a little bit of playing around. I'm sure they can figure that out. Another thing under here that they'll want to check often, and you may want to check often too, is the grade book, because it is real time. The minute they complete something, their grade will be calculated and it'll be updated. Really important to stay on top of this in the online environment, because if your student sees the grade starting to slip, they're going to want to contact the teacher to get some help with that. Say, I'm falling behind, can you help me get caught up? Then the teacher can get in there and see where their misconceptions exist and schedule a time with them on Zoom or something and get them back up to speed. So gradebook, really valuable for an online learner. Obviously calendar, super valuable for an online learner. Even more important, organization for a student in school is key to success. I think it's more important than even any level of intellect. organization is a big difference maker, profoundly true in an online class. Now, that's pretty much the course and what you can expect and what your kids are going to be seeing. Just a few tips for being an online parent or guardian. And I've raised 3 kids. They're all graduated college, so I'm speaking to you as an experienced teaching professional, but also as a equally experienced parent. I've been a parent as many years as I've been a teacher. So in an online environment, it's really important for kids to understand it's going to feel like they're doing a lot of the lifting and learning themselves. That's actually good, because the highest percentage of the student owns the highest percentage of success. What am I trying to say here? Their success depends mostly on the effort they put in. The teachers have impact, parents, guardians have impact, school administration has a very small impact. The 2 highest are the teacher and the student, obviously, but of those 2, the student owns the highest percentage of their own success. So they have to be encouraged and reminded that that's just the way it is. They have to put in the time to learn. Learning doesn't happen passively, it happens actively. So the role you can play is just to become an encourager. They're not in the classroom. The classroom teacher does a lot of that. Well, the classroom teacher's going to be able to see when they're not engaged, and they're going to encourage. But if you're in the house with them, you're the real-time encourager. And I say encourage. You can see I've used it twice here in these tips, because I know what it's like to raise teenagers. You can demand, and if it works, that's great. But the best thing you can do is encourage them. Listen, this is what it takes to do well. Just do the best you can. I think you play the role as an encourager goes a lot further than trying to be demanding or heavy-handed. But of course, that comes down to parenting style and how you choose to encourage your kids, I guess. So encourage them to stay on schedule. So important. If their class normally meets Monday, Wednesday, I would encourage them to get up on Monday, Wednesday and do that content, not put it off. So easy in an online environment to put it off and fall way behind. Encourage them to reach out when they struggle with content. If you see them struggling or getting frustrated, tell them to stop and email the teacher. There's no point in them getting frustrated. It's just going to get worse and worse. Just encourage them to stop, reach out to the teacher. And if they won't, feel free to email the teacher and say, this is what I saw my child's getting or my student's getting. Discouraged here, would you mind sending them an email and checking up? And the teacher will be glad to do that. Sometimes the teacher will have more impact in that situation anyway, so don't hesitate to reach out to a teacher to help you with that. I've already said this, the student holds the highest percentage of responsibility for their learning. So for that reason, as an online parent or as an online guardian, make sure they do the work. And it's okay for them to struggle a little bit. That's normal in learning. You know this because you've been a learner or probably still are a learner. Struggle is important to learning. So it's okay if they struggle. They're developing perseverance when they do that. Anytime you need good problem solvers have to learn how to struggle a little bit and persevere and push through. So that's fine. Let them do the work. It's also okay if you answer questions, if you can. If they're into physics, you may not be able to answer the questions, and that's fine too. That's why we have teachers. But if you can answer the questions, go ahead, but don't just give them the answer. Guide them to the answer, kind of just try to point them in the right direction. They still need to try to find their way as best they can. Now, if they just can't, then you, of course, sit down with them, work out the problem or reason through it with them, and then encourage them to go take another shot at a similar type of problem. Perfectly fine, too. But be an encourager, be helpful. Don't do the work for the kids. That's really not doing them any favors. They're not going to learn. Let them show that work. And then the teacher will get the feedback, and the teacher will do what's right on their end to make sure learning happens in the end. So best of luck with this venture. It's not going to be easy, I'm sure. There will be times that it's frustrating, but I would just encourage you to keep a good attitude with your student and continue to encourage them. And again, don't be afraid to reach out to your teacher if you have questions or if you need a little encouragement. Certainly send them an email and ask for their help. Good luck this year.